Welcome to Bear in Muskegon. As a contractor for us, we expect that you share our dedication to protecting people, the community, and the environment. Much of the work that takes place here is done in or near potentially hazardous environments, and when it comes to safety, we hold ourselves and our contractors to high standards. This video will include important policies and procedures designed to protect yourself, fellow workers, and the facilities. First, let's review standards that must be met before contractors can perform work on or adjacent to processes that involve highly hazardous chemicals. Contractors must comply with all applicable federal, state, and local regulations and company requirements before beginning work, which includes complying with 29 CFR 1910.119H3 Contractor Employer Responsibilities. It is the contractor's responsibility to ensure its employees have been trained and tested on the Bear Contractor Safety Program and can perform their jobs safely. To stay in compliance, contractors must receive safety orientation training at least annually. All contractors are audited periodically to evaluate job performance and compliance with safety standards. Of course, contractors must protect all confidential information and company material. Generally, all information that is not public knowledge shall be treated as confidential and shall not be released outside the facility. Contractors must sign in and out at the security office when entering and exiting the facility. This ensures a proper head count in event of an emergency. When signing in, security may request proof of identification and will check the training database to ensure your training is up to date. If you leave the plant for any reason, you must sign out. Report to the Bear shift supervisor or designated contact person prior to beginning work each day and again before leaving. Typical hours are Monday through Friday, 7:30 to 4 p.m. If work requires extended hours for any reason, the Bear contact person must be notified so it can be authorized and the appropriate plant personnel can be alerted. Do not drive inside the plant grounds unless authorized. Contractor vehicles are not permitted on site unless a service vehicle is required for equipment or deliveries. Because there is pedestrian and vehicular traffic inside the facility, please observe all posted traffic signs, speed limits, and always use pedestrian walkways when available. Watch for golf carts and personnel. All contractors are expected to conduct themselves in a professional manner at all times while on site. There shall be no horseplay, inappropriate language, fighting, use or being under the influence of drugs or alcohol, possession of guns or other weapons, or use of company telephones for purposes other than an emergency, paging, or other work-related use. Only intrinsically safe cell phones and devices are permitted in any process building. Turn off all non-rated phones and electronic devices before entering the process buildings. Electrically rated areas include the GA building or the Green building, MP2, and tank farm secondary containment dikes. Eating, drinking, and smoking, including e-cigarettes, are strictly prohibited except in designated areas. Matches and lighters are prohibited in process buildings. Now let's go over the types and categories of hazardous chemicals used here at the Muskegon site. Remember, safety data sheets are available for chemicals located at this site. They provide detailed information on physical and chemical properties, as well as information on the treatment of injuries that can result from contact or exposure. Flammable liquids in use here include methanol, dowanol, upper phase, and mother liquor residue. These chemicals have a low flash point and can be easily ignited by flames, sparks, or excessive heat. Other combustible liquids, such as diesel fuel, have much higher flash points, but they will burn if exposed to a flame. Corrosive liquids include hydrochloric acid, sodium hydroxide or caustic, and hydrogen peroxide. These materials are corrosive to all body tissues by all routes of exposure. Inhalation can cause damage to the upper respiratory system and could produce chemical pneumonia depending upon the severity of the exposure. Eye contact causes severe burns that can result in blindness. In addition to their inherent dangers, if corrosive chemicals contact certain common metals, flammable hydrogen gas can be released. Although not a corrosive, contact with liquid ammonia will cause tissue damage. Other gases that could be hazardous include anhydrous ammonia, nitrogen, and propane. Ammonia gas is highly irritating to the throat, eyes, and nose. Lung irritation, pulmonary edema, or swelling can occur. Inhalation of nitrogen can cause suffocation. The powder form of imidacloprid presents dust explosion hazards. Other toxic liquid or solid chemicals, if inhaled, ingested, or if they come into contact with skin, can cause various short-term effects such as eye or skin irritation, nausea, vomiting, convulsions, lethargy, or salivation. Chemicals such as glufosinate ammonium, or GA, can be fatal if ingested or absorbed through the skin in sufficient quantities. During open handling of chemicals, operators are in personal protective equipment, and the work area is identified to prevent entrance of unauthorized personnel. If you observe an area roped off with yellow and black caution tape, red and black danger tape, or other barriers and signage, avoid that area. If exposed to any chemical, immediately use a safety shower or eye wash station to flush the affected area. Report the incident to plant personnel immediately after flushing, as further medical attention may be required. To assure we are aware of materials entering the site, contractors must provide a safety data sheet for and inform the bearer contact person of all chemicals brought on site. Chemical containers must be properly labeled and stored. Your bearer contact person or shift supervisor will coordinate with you before work starts as to what equipment is required and who will supply it. In general, minimum personal protective equipment include hard hat, safety glasses with side shields, and safety shoes. Additional eye protection, such as a face shield and/or goggles, are required when grinding, chipping, and when using the abrasive wheel equipment. Some work may require special safety equipment, like chemical splash goggles, welding masks, special clothing and/or tools. Hearing protection shall be worn in areas posted as hearing protection required, and also when operating equipment where noise levels meet or exceed 85 decibels. It is the contractor's responsibility to train its employees on hearing protection. People working at locations elevated 4 feet or more with an unprotected side or edge will be required to comply with all applicable occupational safety and health administration standards. Long hair, loose clothing, and jewelry must be controlled to prevent getting caught in machinery or causing a safety hazard. Short pants and sleeveless shirts are not permitted when working in the process areas. Any piece of equipment or part from company stock must be obtained through the bearer contact person and may not be borrowed unless special arrangements have been made with the contact. The company maintenance shop can be used if necessary, but only with prior approval, and the workplace and the machinery must be cleaned after each job. All contractor-owned equipment must meet all state, federal, and OSHA specifications. Tools and equipment shall not be modified in such a way as to be hazardous or unsafe to the operator or plant personnel, or to cause damage or interruption to plant processes. All extension cords, cables, power tools, or other similar equipment must meet OSHA and NEC requirements and be properly grounded. It is the contractor's responsibility to ensure tools and equipment are inspected and in good working condition. All contractors must complete a permit to work prior to starting any work. The permit to work requires that you identify the equipment and/or systems to be worked on, the description of the task to be completed, the specific location and/or areas you will be working, and the number of workers involved in your crew. The permit to work includes a checklist to ensure that general safety procedures and chemical hazards have been addressed, as well as flagging the need for additional permits for specialty work. The designated contractor supervisor is responsible for informing all contractor employees of safety and work issues during preparation of the permit to work. Now we're going to discuss activities which require additional permits that must be obtained prior to the starting of such activity. Additional permits may be required. For example, work involving electricity or work that produces heat, sparks, or flames requires a permit because it could ignite flammable vapors, gases, and ordinary combustibles, as does work requiring personnel to enter a vessel, sump, or other such confined space that may present a hazard to life. Hand or mechanical digging requires an excavation permit. Prior to starting work and leaving each day, you must report to the control room shift supervisor located in the lab building, who will ensure permits are in place and then closed out properly. Never start work without authorization. Hot work permits may be required for work in all process units or in other areas of the site. Explosion-proof equipment may be required as determined by the company. All contractors shall safeguard their work area to prevent exposure to any unsafe conditions or hazards. Use barricades, signs, and warning tape to identify work areas and restrict entry. Housekeeping and storage of tools, equipment, and materials shall be the responsibility of the contractor. No equipment or material shall be stored or placed so as to block or impede any exits, fire protection service, or equipment. The job site shall always be kept neat and orderly. Any leftover materials or waste from a project is the responsibility of the contractor, unless other arrangements have been made with the bear contact person. The bear portable fire extinguishers located throughout the site shall not be used for fire watch. The contractor is responsible for supplying their own properly inspected fire extinguisher when hot work is involved. These fire extinguishers shall stay mounted on their location so they are available in an event of emergency. Be aware of work that may affect the site fire protection. The facility is equipped with wet sprinklers, FM 200 suppression systems, and smoke dust detectors. Stop work immediately and report to the shift supervisor if work has the possibility of damaging a sprinkler head or creating dust that could set off the wet sprinkler, FM 200, or smoke alarm. A lockout tagout permit is required when a contractor works on equipment or piping. Contractors shall report to the control room in the lab building, and the shift supervisor or designee will ensure that the equipment is properly locked out and de-energized. Equipment must be isolated and deactivated or de-energized to prevent any injury to personnel or damage to property. No contract person shall energize, de-energize, activate, deactivate, or operate any equipment which belongs to the company. Contractors are prohibited from operating valves or operating process equipment. The Muskegon site uses a group lockout tagout procedure, also known as LOTO. For work in process areas, the equipment is properly locked out by operations, and all lockout keys are placed in a red LOTO box located on the control room lockout board. The shift supervisor places a blue control room lock on the group LOTO box to secure it, and when the contractor is ready to perform work, they will sign on the LOTO permit and place his or her personal lockout lock on the lockbox, keeping the key on their person or in a safe place, inaccessible to others. This ensures that the person or persons working on the equipment have control over the lockouts. Contractors are not authorized to break company process containment, open process lines, tanks, or pumps. This work must be completed by company personnel only. The designated contractor supervisor must coordinate with the shift supervisor or bear contact to arrange for assistance. Depending on the type of work being performed, a pre-task safety checklist may be required. The pre-task safety checklist is used where the operations and conditions can change frequently. It is also used to remind workers of the risks associated with the work they will perform that day. This site features an alarm system to notify personnel of potentially dangerous situations. An ammonia alarm will sound, and then an announcement will be made over the PA system. If ammonia is released from the tank farm or GA plant, the wind could transport the chemical released to you. Always be aware of wind direction. There are windsocks located above the GA building, tank farm rail loading racks, and the firewater pump house. The flags located in the parking lot can also be used to help determine wind direction. Move crosswind and upwind of the announced release area to the main entrance. If the main entrance is rendered unsafe, move to the east gate. The site fire alarm is a constant buzzer. If the alarm sounds, check your immediate area for a fire. When the alarm is silenced, you will hear an announcement over the PA system informing the site as to the location of and the reason for the alarm. Wait for further instructions whether to stay where you are or evacuate to the designated evacuation rally point. If you discover a fire and no Bayer personnel are in the immediate area, sound the alarm using a pull station. Go to a safe location and dial 550 and announce the location of the fire to the site. The primary emergency evacuation point is located just north of the main front gate entrance. If the main entrance is unsafe or inaccessible, evacuate to the east gate. It is important to remain calm. Do not leave the evacuation area unless told to do so by company or fire officials. The designated contractor supervisor shall assist in taking a head count for their personnel. If any personnel cannot be accounted for, emergency services will have to assume they are still inside the plant and will need to search for them. In addition, someone moving around the site in an unauthorized manner could enter a release area unknowingly and be at risk of injury. We conclude by reminding you that safety is everyone's responsibility. Bayer values you and your contribution to our work, and we value your professionalism and commitment to keeping others safe. We're glad to have you working with us, and we look forward to a successful relationship with you.